to be a teacher when I went to college, and I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to be, and I took some education classes. It felt comfortable, it felt right, it felt at home, and I started kind of soul searching and really thinking about my own journey and how it was always just, I think, always in the back of my mind, but I needed a little push to get there. Funding for school, it's just so important. With public, it just seems like you have an infinite amount of resources with all the tax dollars that fund it. Private's a little bit different. We have scholarship programs, and we can get grants and stuff as well. It depends on the private school you're at. If you have a good parent support and involvement, you have these amazing fundraisers that target specific projects and specific resources. And there's so many different aspects to a school and so many things you need as far as technology and textbooks and just supplies and stuff like that. So it's definitely vital. The American school system should probably focus on supporting teachers more. There's just a huge staffing shortage from what I've seen in the years that I've been teaching, and keeping good teachers because they don't feel supported. They don't feel that they are getting all the direction and instruction they need and the professional development they need. And so I think that's definitely, I've taught in both public and private schools. I think that the private schools, the amount of attention and the amount of dedication you see from not only families but from the teachers and staff and admin, it's just it's really beneficial to 99% of the kids who come here. They feel supported, and even though we don't have the resources in private school that public school has, when you have the smaller settings, the smaller atmosphere, the family and community aspect that a lot of public schools don't have, at least not anymore, because they've gotten so big, and the transition with people moving from zone to zone schools. I think that the private schools really just the amount of stability we offer and provide just makes a huge difference for most of the kids here, and I think you can really see that and they really feel that.
What seems to be my whole entire life, I seem to have a talent for speaking with and dealing with humans younger than myself. So I knew most of my life that I wanted to work with children in some way. And when I was in kindergarten, it just seemed like my kindergarten teacher was absolute magic, and I wanted to be just like her when I grew up. I do think funding for my school affects my ability to teach, but I don't think funding is the end-all be-all. I think public schools definitely have a lot of funding that I think sometimes pay for things we don't need. There's a lot of wasteful spending, I feel like, in the public system because there is so much funding. So are we really spending it on what we need to spend it on? Whereas private school, there's more limited funding, but then you want to be very careful with how you're spending every penny of it. So I do feel it's important. But I think no matter what kind of school you teach at, you have to be careful on how you're spending those. I think one of the biggest differences in my experience between public school and private school is parent involvement. My experience in the public system, not to say that there wasn't parent involvement, I definitely had some amazing parents who were very involved in their children's education, but there were a lot of parents who, not necessarily through a fault of their own, they were working several jobs or they just had very challenging things going on in their lives, that the education of their children was not their priority. So I didn't really communicate with them or talk to them. Whereas in private education, I'd say 90-95% of the parents are very involved in the education. They want to know day to day what their children are doing, how they're learning, what they can do to support their child in their learning, and you don't always see that in the public system. I don't think they have the same problems. I think they each have their own issues, but they both have the same amount. I feel a lot more supported both by administration and by parents working in the private system than I did working in the public system. But I think in the public system, if you have students who struggle for whatever reason, there's a lot of resources in the public system to get them the assistance and the aid that they need that the private system doesn't necessarily offer. So each system definitely has their own issues, and I would say they're about equal. When looking at public and private school, does one have a clear advantage? I think it depends on who you are. I think for me, private school has a clear advantage because it is my religion, it is my core belief system, and I get to share that with my students in a way I didn't get to do in the private system. And that is something else that I think would really help in the public system, not necessarily bringing back prayer, although I know a lot of people would support that, but in the public system, there is no time to teach right and wrong, to teach how to help your fellow man. It is all about test scores and doing well for whatever tests we're preparing for, given to us by the state. Whereas in private school, I have a whole period to talk about how to be a better human. And yes, in my school, that is because of Jesus Christ. That is because we believe in God. But you could do that in the public system and not attach it to a religion. I just really think that is something that's important for children as they grow.